Good to see everybody. If you missed us last week, no sweat. We're going to pick right up where we left off. We're talking about people. So I'm going to share my screen and I've let everybody in. Ben, I'm going to make you a co-host just so you keep an eye on anybody else that's coming in. Appreciate you, man. And look at you, Savannah. Savannah beat you to it. You see it, Ben? There's the Slido link there in the comments. So if you do have any questions as we go through it today, you can collect your questions there and we'll hit those at the end. Format of the meeting is we're going to review some tools at the beginning and we'll do some Q&A at the end. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's make
sure. Owned it last week, so I had to jump in real fast.
I get it. I get it. And Ben kind of is a bragger, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes, you know, it's good to teach him, put him in his place.
Just trying to share the wealth is all.
Oh, you're like, I'm trying to give Savannah some opportunities. Okay, so all of you guys should have received with your Ops Experts Club membership, the membership area. And I just wanted to show it to you real quick. So, and I know we've gone over it before, but we're going to hit some things with Gap Analyzer today that I think it's important that you just review here. So nothing flashy. You're going to see more coming soon. Remember, we at the Collab team, this is the website and that's me, which still feels a little bit ridiculous, but if we go here, ops solution progression is how we work through things. So we start with people, that's the zone we're living in right now, and then we move to processes. So in the membership area, that's what we're going to offer you is in that progression. So we're just starting with people now. And then under that section of people, you're going to see the free tools. And then you're going to see each week's recording. So if any week you miss, they're all there waiting for you. Kimberly was so kind and let us take her through the Delegate Elevate last week, which was awesome. We talked 555, just some cool stuff. So if you missed last week, make sure you jump in there. But I wanted to look at the tools. So this week is going to be us kind of deep diving in the Gap Analyzer evaluation process. So the free tool you were given is the Gap Analyzer. I know that we've gone through Gap Analyzer with several of you on the call. Some of you were in the middle of going through Gap Analyzer, but I thought it was super important for you guys to understand how to evaluate something. So first off, there are two different versions. This is the same tool, just wrapped a little bit different. So if you go to My Time, it's going to take you here and it's going to talk about what are you spending all your time on, you know, and that's for like the solo entrepreneur starting to grow his team, trying to identify where his time is being used, her time is being used. And all the language around it is all going to be down that vein. And this is obviously, just so you guys know, anything that comes off of the member page is going to be yours. So meaning I'd prefer you not to send it. This little insider link right here means that it's free. I'm giving it to you guys for free. So if you keep that one to yourself, anybody else goes to gapanalyzer.com or solo-to-entrepreneur.com, they're going to get the paid version. This is the free version for you guys. So first one is going to be solopreneur. What are you spending all your time on? But if you have a team, then I started wrapping it different. Same picture, like same tool. But it's just, instead of how are you uniquely as a solopreneur using your time, it then shifts to how is my team using their time. One of the biggest frustrations for an entrepreneur is not knowing where all their people's time is going. And it can create this uneasy angst of needing to always be checking in on everybody on exactly where everybody's time is going to make sure they're being most efficient. The tool takes the angst out of the room. You know, it kind of releases that negative, anxious energy by giving people some visibility. So we've gone over the Gap Analyzer already on week 1, so I don't want to bore you by going through all the details of the Gap, but process-wise, obviously you go through, you invite your people. Once you've invited your people, you're going to get a layout that looks like this. So just so you're really, really clear, whether you download the solopreneur version or the Gap Analyzer version, it all is the same tool. It's all going to take the same place. So the beauty is for the solopreneur, go through it on your own. And then as you begin adding team, you can start adding team here. And then you can look at your own time. You can also be an identifier of how you should be hiring when you're hitting bandwidth, what kind of people you should be hiring for. So once you've invited your people, you're going to end up here. And this is going to be all your folks represented. So I would say, send out the invites. It's all very automated. Once you get your invites back, I would say starting to dig into each individual person, because as they're filling it out, they probably have filled it out wrong. Like not wrong like they're dumb, wrong like it's new. They've never done something like this before. You're asking them to evaluate their time in a way that they're probably not used to. So Savannah, I'm going to pick on you because you're sweet and you have a good smile and I like picking on you. It's just fun. So This is Savannah's, and she is awesome. Savannah is one of the very best on my team. If you've got Savannah working on your projects, I can't give you any better. I mean, I'm not going to say she's better than Ben, but she might be. But I'm just saying that they're still arm wrestling that one out. But Savannah has done her daily tasks. She's filled out her weekly tasks and her monthly tasks. But what I was noticing in going over Savannah's is Savannah, I think that it got glitchy, and I think you filled this out twice. And I think that you didn't realize that you filled it out twice because your notes are different. So I think that remember, I think you were having bad internet and you're like, hey, I'm experiencing this glitch. Anyway, long story short, Savannah double realized her hours here, and that's going to game how much she's working. 12-hour days is that's not what I do to Savannah. She's not working, nor is she working 60-hour work weeks. And so as you go through, you're going to find things like this where you just need to clean things up. And then you're going to find times, Savannah, I'm going to continue my picking on your round, where maybe it's been double realized, where she actually is counting this in the monthly too, but really she's already accounted for it in the weekly. And some people don't realize the tool is totaling top to bottom. So what you'll find oftentimes is people in the daily task, they want to show they're working 8 hours a day. So they'll put everything in their daily tasks, not realizing that that's probably not completely true. Ben made a really good point. I don't know if it was on here or on Coffee Experts, Ben.
It was on coffee.
Yeah, so Ben was talking about in the daily task, you probably shouldn't have that many hours of what you're doing every single day. There are going to be probably some things get loaded in from the weekly into the daily. So if you do things on a weekly basis, Savannah did this perfect. She does meetings this many times, but those meetings are going to show up in her daily. But if you account for them in the daily and in the weekly, then it's going to actually game your numbers at the bottom, which is also going to game your numbers as a total organization. So there's probably some cleanup. Savannah is one of the sharpest people I've got. So if Savannah had confusion about it, your people are going to have confusion about it. So I would just say going through cleanup first is where I will always start with folks. And the way that'll work for me is I'll usually just shoot a quick loom. So that's an interesting one. Kimberly, that's a good idea. Maybe fill it out backwards, but sometimes people don't like reading from bottom to top. So I would say, I think going from top to bottom is fine. They just might have to clean it up. And what I'll do for the cleanup process typically is I'll create looms and I'll say, hey, Savannah, I noticed you did a double reckoning here of hours. Will you do me a favor? Will you just go in and clean this up? Because then as an admin, I don't have the power to change Savannah's. It's only Savannah can account for her stuff. So I'll do that through looms and get the things totally cleaned. And then once I'm completely sure that everybody's time is being allocated correctly, I move into the evaluation process. Are there any questions along those lines yet? Or Ben, Taryn, Savannah, any things that you want to add up to this point?
I do know sometimes it might be hard to determine if it's a daily task or a weekly task. And maybe it's something you do, 2 or 3 times a week, but not every day. So I think you could default to putting it in the weekly section.
Yep.
If it's something you do 3 times a week, but not every day, and it totals 3 hours, you can just put 3 hours in the weekly.
That's good. Anything else? Ben, did you have any other things that you've tripped on when filling things out or when going through things that you're like, hey, maybe just tricks to the trade?
I think you covered it with people naturally wanting to front load the daily, just because, especially if you are a team leader or entrepreneur, people are going to be like, I got to make sure the boss knows I'm working, front load the daily. But I mean, if you're analyzing gaps, it's the exact opposite you want, because ideally you want to use this tool to find gaps in people's days to be able to either project out new things, or you want to use it also to find the bandwidth. So if they do have open gaps in their days and weeks, you can go, awesome, we've got goals we want to hit. I've got bandwidth to give that to you. But if they're just like, sorry, I work 9 hours a day every week, and then they're completely empty on week and month, it is kind of pointless in that sense.
That's good. It's good. It also helps you to identify how you can help them, right? Sometimes when you don't have complete understanding of how somebody's week goes, you're only looking at their daily. It can be hard to help them troubleshoot how you could actually help them. So it's good when you see, hey, this is like, a lot of people will show up with a monthly that's like 8 hours a month they're spending doing some particular project. And you're like, wait a minute, talk to me about that. And how are you loading it back into your days if it's taking you 8 hours a month? Where does that get loaded? And so you can have some good conversation around it. And break assignments into pieces. Maybe they still need to own the final product, but do they need to do everything that leads up to that? Probably not. They could probably break out pieces. People can bring back to them details, and then they're the last one to put a stamp on it before they submit whatever that is. But it helps you to kind of break out roles, if you can think about it that way. So, so in the process now, you've invited your people, right? You've logged into the tool, created your logins, invited your people. They've filled it all out for you. You sent out your cleanup, and now we move to evaluation. That's the exact process I use. If you're doing it for your team, that's what I'd suggest you do. This is the evaluation process. So what I'll do first is I'll come in here and identify gaps. We talked about that a little bit on week 1, but I'll identify the beauty of the tool at this, really, in all honesty, is the macro view, and then you can begin to drill down on it, but it's just putting everybody's time team-wide into one spot where you can begin to identify. Obviously, we talked about this before. I have some gap in sales addressed by, there's only 5% of the entire organization that's working on sales and all the total hours for all the total collab team. So obviously that's a pain point. And then the next thing I would say is address your next biggest piece of the pie, because you need to ask yourself, does 56% of everybody's time given to operations make sense? Like for our organization, we're an ops solutions hub. We do operations for a lot of different clients. You're going to see that in the eval that I go through right now for Taryn. Taryn, I'm going to pick on you for your eval today. But we're an operations company. Of course, a lot of our stuff's given to ops, but you need to ask yourself, should this much time be given to ops? And this is the biggest question. And this is the biggest pain point that I hear from a lot of entrepreneurs who have team is, operations isn't sexy and I don't make money from operations. You know what I'm saying? Like there's not a lot of money to be made in making sure that your stuff is running right. Now, you could argue for customer experience, you can argue for customer journey, you can argue for all these different pieces where that might be contributing to sales. But I would say you want your operations running lean, even if other things in your, like, let's say maybe your sales isn't as lean as possible. Well, yeah, but your sales is killing the meat, that they're bringing in. So you can justify extra costs there. Where you can't always justify is a lot of operations overhead. So thinking through how you're using the operations is really key. So I'm going to pick on our operations a minute. So I would say, look for your gap first. What do I need to focus on? And then look at next, what is the majority of my time going to? If you click on any section of the graph, it's going to give you your total hours that people are giving to operations. Savannah's 38 isn't fair because we just talked about that there's loaded numbers in there that's not right. So, but I would always start there is, if I think that operations is carrying too heavy, let's look at who's got the most operations hours and then begin to peel apart the pieces of what they're considering operations and ask, is that all operations? And if it is, could those things be allocated? So reallocated to other people. So I'm going to pick on Taryn with his operation hours. And the way that I'll do this, just so you guys know my process, is I'll open up Taryn's and then I'll just come here and I'll print the screen. And I'll print it to a PDF so then that I can drop comments into it and then we can have a conversation about it. And those, the PCS team, I'm in the middle of that with you guys now. Darren, I just did one with you earlier this week. As I print them out, I'll drop them into a folder, and this is PCS's team, and I'll have a couple different signifiers. So I haven't met with Morgan or Andy. I have both of them today. I'm already prepared, so this is probably playing too much in my hand. Oh, no, sorry. It's Shanna. Shanna and Andy are today. But I have not reviewed these that don't have any connotation next to them. But the ones that say ready for a clarity call means I've already taken my first pass. I've already taken my first pass. I've dropped in my questions, and then complete just means I've already completed those evaluation calls. Because what I'll always do after I have somebody go through their gap analyzer is I'll send out my link and I'll say, hey, thank you so much for completing it. Schedule a time with me so we can review it together. And so that just means those are the ones that I've completed so far, and I'll take it through the process now. So here's Taryn. Taryn Turner, top of the
Ready.
screen. Are you ready for this?
Yep.
Dude, I'm gonna get so mean right now, like probably the meanest you've ever seen. Just kidding.
You're only working 5 hours a day? Gosh.
Like, man, what the heck is Taryn doing with all his time?
Making bread.
Awesome. So what I'll do is, and you can do this any way you want. It probably every PDF tool is a little different. I just grab the comment tool and I'll come in and I'll start asking questions. This is how I prep for getting ready for my clarity call. So I'll work through and I'll just read through what Taryn's doing. So marketing tech issues, course emails, contact lists, tech issues, app connections, sales pages, order forms, integrations, 3 hours. That's Taryn's jam. Like that's Taryn as an architect. The way that Collab Team works in its scale. Terran's at the top. He's an architect, and those are the things that I would expect him to be doing. So that makes sense. Finance help, orders, payment plans, reporting takes him about an hour a day. So the first question I would ask for Terran is, and this is always what I'll ask myself is, according to the job description, the seat this person sits in, does this fit? You know, I had it when I met with Tommy yesterday from PCS, Darren. We had a conversation about a lot of times people can become collectors, and what they have done over time, especially somebody like Tommy that's been with the organization for 8 or 9 years, you've collected a lot of things, and you always need to be asking yourself has this become something that's just generationally been passed on to me, and I've just been carrying it so long that it doesn't make sense anymore? Like it made sense when I started. Should I still be carrying it in my certain position? And there's always those questions. So I'll always start there. Terran, same thing. Like Terran started with me. Like I started in 2014. Terran started with me in 2015, you know? So Terran's been with me now 6 years, and he's probably carrying some things that should be tasked down to Ben, should be tasked down to Savannah. And then Ben and Savannah should have some things that they should be tasking down. And that's dealt with by the delegate elevate that we looked at last week on the call. So this, my first question here would be, can Ben help with this? On our team, we've identified some different spots where Terran doesn't become the choking point, because Terran can become the choking point. Anybody that's towards the top is going to become the choking point if they're not careful. We've kind of allocated for Ben to take on things with finance. Typically, Savannah will help me on things that are more customer experience side of things, and that's kind of become their jam, is wherever there's extra bandwidth that we can relieve off of Terran and myself, we'll task down to those people that way. So my first question for that would be for Terran. I'm going to go through your whole weekly, Terran, and then I'll circle back on you. And then I'll drop in if I have anything else. So communication, tasks, emails, Asana, this is life, right? Anybody that like that's just going to be part of life. Now, if this is starting to swallow hours and hours of your day, I would say, okay, so do you need to be running as many Slack channels? Do you need to be running as many projects in Asana? Is there things that you can begin to hand off so your inbox isn't handled so deep? And there are some people that have tried to move completely away from email altogether and are trying to live in their other tools so that email gets a little bit of a breather. Some businesses can't do that, but that's understandable. Manual sales processing. It's only taking them 15 minutes a day. And I think that's more as a relief, but let's ask. So relief work or mainstay. And what that means to me is, are you doing that in your daily, or are you providing relief? I think he's probably providing relief. So Terran, let's start on this section here. What I would do then is, actually, let's go all the way through and then I'll come back. That's better. So weekly tasks, he's doing a lot of L10 meetings. We do a lot of L10 meetings at Collab Team, just meaning we roll in and we run meetings for people. You may feel like that sounds like overkill. Like, why would we run meetings for people? What we found is that if you can free up the people who are on the teams to just be thinking and processing and not have to be leading a meeting, not have to be journaling the notes, not doing the clerical side of things, or even just emceeing the room, then they are more free to really get involved in what's being discussed in issues, rallying that up to quarter rocks, talking about, bigger picture things that they need to be attacking. So we facilitate a lot of L10s. Terran spends a lot of L10s. Customer support issues. Keith Yackey and 100X downstream unsolvable issues to help with. I'm going to ask him and just make sure, do you have to be involved here? And then dispute responses for sure. I'm gonna ask him about. I think we've already reconciled this, but Ben, question mark. And then I'm going to come down to his monthly task. This printed funky, you're going to see it start to shift, but it's fine. AYR sales commissions. Once again, I think we've handed this off since we did this gap. I'm going to ask about Ben again. Affiliate reporting. Yeah, for sure. Sales reporting, team trainings and recordings. That makes sense. And then this is kind of overshadowing what his hours totals are, but these are the three things. If you're used to the gap analyzer, one of the coolest things I think about the gap analyzer is that you can see everybody's greatest inefficiency, largest pain points, and biggest wins all on the same page from the summary, which is cool because you can slide down and see if there are things that are repeat issues that people are finding. This is Terran, so this is the greatest inefficiency. last minute requests that if given more time could be done with more pizzazz, but we end up having to put together quick fixes or band-aided solutions that may fall off over time. It's great. Largest pain point, the inability to create with long-term goal in mind. And obviously my questions are always going to be client work, just to make sure he's not saying that I don't have long-term goals in mind. And then biggest win, helping businesses with solutions that are seeing them succeed in their area of expertise and sets them up for a better company in the long run. I mean, that could be our tagline. Like, we're here to help businesses level up, period. So anyway, once I've gone through and I've made my initial clarity call questions, then I'll set up my meeting with Taryn, and then we'll do some follow-up. So Taryn, nice to meet you. Great having you on the call today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm ready to be roasted.
Bro, I'm not going to roast you, not publicly. I love your carpet painting in the background. It's so amazing.
Thank you. It's not the clown, but he's coming back soon. Just wait for it.
What about my horses? Are my horses going to make an appearance somewhere?
No, they ended up in the hallway.
Dang it. Okay, anyway, here we go. So, hey, Taryn, thanks for meeting with me today. I just had a quick couple of questions about your gap analyzer. And the thing that I always try and do in these calls is, I'm not here, like sometimes people can feel like they're called into the principal's office. That's not the environment I want to create. Like, I'm not here to carve people up. I'm here to get better clarity. And so I'll always try and frame it with, hey, thanks for doing the gap analyzer. Turned out super good. Obviously, you're doing a lot of awesome things, and we wouldn't be where we're at if not for you. So thank you for that. I just had a couple quick clarity questions for you.
Yeah, shoot.
So let's go here. So you said, Taryn, about finance help, orders, payment plans, reporting. Is this something Ben can help with?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea.
Oh man, I'm full of those. Thanks for being so kind. So then if we've decided that could be something that could be tasked down, then I'll typically say, do you already have that SOP'd out? And if so, is that something you can just hand off?
Yeah, I've got a lot of it SOP'd out. I can start to hand off the rest as they come up. Some of them are just one-off things that they need help with, more of downstream, higher level support. So I can work on SOPing those out for Ben.
Awesome, that's great. Ben, just because we have you on the call, and that's a pretty unique window. When Taryn does that kind of stuff, where he's like, hey, we've identified this is a spot where we can create more bandwidth for Taryn, and he SOPs them out. SOP, just standard operating procedure. He's SOP'd them out. He's created a task list for you, created usually a loom, I would suggest goes in that. We actually usually do it by Asana, where there's something people can work through, so we have visibility on if it's getting done, especially if it's recurring. So when you receive those from Taryn, what's that experience like?
Horrible.
Yes, we're all gonna do Taryn.
No, it's easiest in Asana. I get pinged in Asana. I'll usually look it over, check out the loom, see what the walkthrough process is, and then Taryn always does a good job of assigning out a realistic due date to it. So if it is like a daily or a weekly task, it'll be, if today's Monday, hey, I need it by next Monday, or I need it by the end of the week, and then I just crack it up.
Awesome. Ben, would you do me a favor while I keep going down this? Will you pull up a good example so that people have good working examples of what that can look like? Something coming over from Taryn, SOP'd out.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. Manual sales process. So is this just stuff like, are you helping out? Is that like Ben gets stuck, somebody gets stuck, we're not able to jump into it? Is that like mostly Kiyaki work?
Yes, it's the latter of those.
Okay, the latter of those. Awesome. Kiyaki work, which is fine. And it's just more like when Ben or I can't help you with that, you're jumping in to help with that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be candid, this was filled out a long time before Ben started helping. So that has been tasked to Ben. A lot of this stuff.
You're so good. You're so good. Awesome. So already tasked to Ben.
Yep.
And I will say, when did we fill this out to you? It was like May or June, I think, is when I had you fill this out. So that's only 6 months ago. And I feel like that's probably pretty far in your rearview mirror, so much so that you're just like, I don't even really think about that anymore. And I do think that's the benefit, right? Is that once you begin to identify things and you begin to peel things off of people and you hand them out in a way that they can just take it on, it becomes something in your rearview mirror. And I found, like, because that has been how I've tasked stuff down to Taryn through the years. Like, Taryn takes it so much further than anything that I could have taken it to. And we talked about that a little bit on Delegate Elevate last week, of as you begin to empower people and give them things, there's always that fear of, are they going to be able to do it as well as I've been doing it? But what is so relieving and empowering is when you see your people take it to such higher levels than what you had it. And so there are times where like Taryn has grown things to such a huge level on some of the fronts that we're on. I don't even know that I could help with it anymore. Like Taryn's taken it to such a further level, even though it origined with me, he's made it so much better. And that makes me feel good. That makes me feel good as somebody that has created more space for myself, tasking down to Taryn, and to see it now 2 iterations down that he's handed off to Ben and it's still going so well is like, that's good energy. Ben, do you have that yet? Are you still looking?
Yeah, I think I might be able to drop a link to the task in the chat.
Okay, let's try. Try some tech. Try some tech. Let's go on an adventure together.
Try something new.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. I love new stuff. New stuff's probably my favorite. Not at all. If you know me, new stuff's not my favorite. I'm a creature of habit.
I
Okay,
was gonna
so
say you and Travis are
That's
two kindred spirits there.
there's a reason why I task work directly to Travis most days. I'm like, Travis, you understand. I don't like change. Anyway, Taryn, you want to walk us through this one?
Through the task.
Yeah, the ask and the task.
Yeah, so I had a request from some people on some upgrades they needed for some roster sheets. And so I went through, figured out the process, completed one, and then recorded a video duplicating the process and completing a second one, and then sent it to Ben. So this was more of a one-off project. So it's not really like a full, lined out, here's what to expect and here's the reoccurring task and all that. But this was me tasking out a one-off project. So I do it, I figured out, I do it once, I record it, doing it a second time, and then I task it to Ben.
Awesome. And then if it's multiple steps, Taryn, will you usually do it as a main task and then drop in as subtasks underneath it, what the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps are? Is that how you usually do a SOP?
Well, I'm not going to lie to you, Aaron. I'm not the best at using subtasks.
That's fair. It's fair. Okay, no, that's good. And so maybe what we should do is I'll spend maybe when we do the project management and processes next month, Taryn, I'll show some people some SOPs. But I would say just to give you a framework, whatever it is that you choose, I would suggest including a video, including whatever the asset is that you're asking them to do. And then I would say like using your subtasks and tasking out steps underneath it of do this, do this, do this, do this as a walkthrough, especially if it's a one-off, I wouldn't do it. But like if it's end over end work, if Taryn's passing something on to Ben and he wants to make sure that Ben's got it, it's good to see where the breakdown happens. And Ben's going to identify, hey, I'm not clear when there are step-by-steps.
There's another example there of using subtasks.
Okay.
Perfect. Let's check it out.
Dude, I love checking stuff out. Okay, end of month affiliate duties.
Yeah.
Consists of resource needed, logins needed. So, and then there's, look at all these subtasks. So 13 subtasks for this one, pull backpack commissions already done for July. So this is obviously an older one that just needs to be updated date wise. Pull IFS commission, build the reports, add commissions in that are not tracked in the software, share reports with Aaron for review and payout. Once Aaron executes payout, reconcile in software. And then each one of those obviously has subtasks underneath them that as Ben comes in, he's able to check off. And then as he checks off end of month affiliate duties, because it's a recurring task every Wednesday, it's going to recur. It's going to show back up with all the same steps in it for next Wednesday for Ben to do. So just some visibility. Thank you.
Yeah, and I always like to add into the bottom there, you see logins needed. Sometimes when you get a new task, you don't end up doing it until right when it's due. So this kind of gives the person you're giving it to a heads up, like, hey, make sure you have these logins.
Yep.
If not, let me know before they get to an hour before it's due. And they're like, oh, crap, I don't have the logins. And you're like, I'm at the beach. I can't get those to you. It's a headache.
We use LastPass for sharing logins. Just that way, even if you're at the beach, I can tell Taryn, hey, listen, get out of the water. I just need you to get on your phone and to share it with me on your phone. So, but Taryn sometimes is tricky like that. And he's like, I don't have it on my phone for this reason. I don't want you to bug me when I'm not at my computer. We have some funny back and forths.
And LastPass cracked down and you can't have it on your phone and your computer now. You have to choose one or the other if you're on the free version.
Yeah, free version, that's true. But if you use an HQ, if you want to use my HQ, Savannah, you can have it on as many as you want. So look at that. Okay. Alrighty, so we identified these things. Oh, sorry, we identified, yeah. So Yeah, got it. Weekly tasks. So Terry, customer support issues, Keith Yackey, 100x downstream, unsolvable issues. Do you have to be involved here? Are these things that probably aren't going to go away?
Yeah, I'd say some of them have gone away, and then some of them are more of have kind of evolved to customer tech issues on a high level of when they aren't solvable by other people.
That's good. Perfect. And then dispute responses. This is something we've already handed off to Ben?
Yeah. Well, most of them.
Done. Almost complete what?
Most of them.
Okay.
He doesn't do the AYR ones because they still want me on their finance team.
That's great. I love it.
They like you so much.
Mm-hmm.
But just so you know, guys, like that'll also be things where I'll start looking for redundancies, you know. So in an example like that, I'll make suggestions to new calls on people when I'm on with people on, hey, who's handling your disputes? Because I know everybody has pain points with disputes. Who on your team is doing that? Is that a good spot, or is that a good spot for Collab team to come in? Because we don't need a lot of product knowledge. It's usually just templated stuff that takes a long time to go through, and then the back and forth with the credit card processor. So I give that as an example of, for you on your internal team, creating end-over-end processes that you can hand down, and then just make sure one person is the collector. So you don't have multiple people doing very similar jobs, but asking yourself, could that be drilled down into one job description, and that becomes more this person's job description and frees up other people that may be at a different part of it. And then finally, Taryn Turner, AYR sales commissions. Ben?
Yeah, I'm still doing those for AYR.
Okay, so Ben's not a good solution for this one? Oh, because you're still on financing?
Yeah.
AYR wants to poach Taryn. That's an inside joke because Pete took Taryn on a romantic Mexican cruise. Just kidding. Taryn went on their team trip down to Mexico, and Pete made an offer to Taryn to go with him, and Taryn said, no, I like Aaron better. So just kidding. Pete,
Well, to be clear, I went to Mexico with them, but I did not join their crew.
Yes, he did go to Mexico. That is true.
You took the bribe, but you didn't fall for the
Right?
bribe.
That's it right there. I mean, take the bribe, just don't go all the way through with it. Okay. Affiliate reporting. Ben?
Yes.
Yes.
Happened.
Love it. And then I had some questions about your largest pain point, Taryn, inability to create long-term goals in mind. We're talking about clients.
Correct. Yeah, it pairs with the
This
one above it. Yeah.
Yeah, which is fires, right? It's really hard to create something sexy when everything's a fire drill.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Alrighty.
Or when you're working with the visionaries and they don't really have year-long insights, they're more of just like month-long, like, oh, this is what we're doing next, this is what we're doing next. And you're just like, well, if we had longer to look at that,
Yes.
we could have created something awesome.
No, I love it. Perfect.
But it's part of the people.
Awesome. Awesome. Alrighty. So then that's how I would do an eval for Taryn. And then what I'll usually do with all of these, you know, once I've got a list and all of everything says complete, then I'll read back through and I'll begin to identify areas that I think that there could be good suggestions. And I'll come up with a summary document and I'll say, hey, having met with all your people, here's everybody's stuff. If you want to read through it, usually not everybody wants to read through everything. And so I'll give the fine points up at the top of, hey, I would suggest maybe it looks like these three people have a similar role at this point. Have you thought about maybe rolling that together? And maybe it's that I don't understand all the intimations, but that would be like where I suggest is efficiencies. I'll also identify, hey, I was talking to this person, Savannah, and Savannah says that she really does not want to be doing finance duties, but I was noticing that if you shifted this out of Stephanie's role, that possibly those duties could be funneled into Stephanie and then it would relieve Savannah. So I'll just make some suggestions of things that I've seen working through teams to help the gap to look the best. And then, you know, it comes down to, are there job descriptions for these, you know? So I'll say, once we've gone through it at a first pass, I'll say, hey, these are my suggestions. I would suggest you maybe go through the delegate elevate with your people, find out what they enjoy doing about their job now that they've just documented everything. Go through the delegate elevate, which there's a new version, which Ben, would you mind dropping as a tool in the membership area for me? Because I promised Darren I would do that. Darren, we went through several iterations and Savannah made an even sexier version than we had before. And so that is PDF fillable. But I would say once you have people go through the gap analyzer, if you give them a delegate and elevate, it helps you identify Are there things that we should begin considering pulling out of people's roles? And that usually is an indicator of how somebody's job description is looking, or do they have a job description? You know, and are these things showing up in their job description? And then does it create space of, do we need to hire somebody else? Is the rest of our team redlined? Is everybody pegged? And we need to maybe do some hiring? Or could we offset some load and maybe use bandwidth we have other places? So that is my suggestion from that angle.